I might need to go to my Facebook. Let's see if it pulls me up. Am I going live on my Facebook? I don't know. It doesn't look like it. A lot of buttons to hit. Here we go. Confirm. Let's do this one. All right. Howdy, gang. Am I live? That's the question. Stop. I should probably record this too. But hard to do. I've got so many windows open. I know I'm streaming on Twitch. I know I'm doing that. I'm just thinking about, am I streaming in other places? Because I have so many freaking, like my computer is just creeping along and is not happy. All right. I see you there, Vince. You got the YouTube alert? Okay, I'm on YouTube. I don't know if I'm on Facebook. I'm trying to check that guy out here. Yeah, okay. I'm live on Facebook too. Perfect. Yeah. Check that guy out. See, you can hear me. Okay, we're good. Main camera. Actually, since we're not going streaming, I'm gonna do this camera. No logo. Hello, everybody. This is going to be really interesting for everyone at home. There's been a lot of talks lately about developments and like affordable housing and student purpose-built single-room occupancy-driven developments, and just there's a lot of confusing things. There's a lot of there's legalese and ordinances. There's a really cool ordinance going to City Council on April 14th, whatever that Tuesday is. There's a lot of stuff going on in Fayetteville Planning Commission. There's just a lot of stuff. And the other day, I spoke at Planning Commission about a vacation alley request, and I had some neighbors that brought the piece of paper to me, and they're like, "What is this?" We talked a little bit about it on stream a couple weeks ago, and it's a vacation. That sounds fun. Everybody wants one of those. But what it was is this big developer from out of state, from Chicago, called Core Spaces. They wanted to submit this vacation alley request because on the legal map doctrine of the city of Fayetteville, there is this alley that cuts between these three parcels of land, and this developer cannot build one giant like block style apartment complex over that road because it is listed as an alleyway, which is a thoroughfare, which is a road that you cannot build upon unless you apply for a vacation request. So to vacate the alley, to remove it from the plan of Fayetteville plan, so that those lots can be not unified and they can build this giant building. I spoke up against it because the alley is right there next to where I live. It's my house. Or apartment, and along with 50 other people that live on these properties, the three conjoining parcels. And, I got some feedback from some, of the people on city planning, and they're like, "Oh, it's just a vacation alley. What's the big deal?" And I go, "You guys are not looking at the big picture. The big picture is, yes, this is a tiptoe into a future development that you guys haven't even thought about yet. This is a big company that's wanting to buy this property for like $13 million. And they don't want to do it unless they know that this is going to be a surefire bet for them to build their building." And so I'm out here being like, hey guys, maybe let's not vacate this alley. Maybe let's keep these parcels individual to encourage smaller developments. And maybe let's not bulldoze me and all my neighbors' houses so we can make more luxury condos for students. Maybe not. Maybe let's just stop. So it brought up some questions, and the commission was like not really cool. They were like, wait a minute, what? We didn't think about it like this. And the applicants were there, Core Spaces, and they were like, hey, it's just a alley vacation request, right? And then they said, well, are you guys planning on developing this property to a, large scale development, multi, student, a dorm? And I'm like, yeah, well, yeah, that's what's coming next. Like, if this goes through, we'll submit a rezone request, then we'll submit a large scale development request, and yada, yada, yada. So I'm like, hey, remember, I was right. I absolutely called this. I'm wearing my Protect Fayetteville shirt. You can get these through Good Neighbors. All proceeds of this go to the Fayetteville IRA. I highly recommend you guys buy one of these shirts. They're really cool, and it's for a good cause. But I got a phone call like a couple days later from one of their lawyers, a local lawyer that was representing Core Spaces, and they want to talk to me. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun if I just live stream the whole thing? So yeah, at 3:00, which is in like 4 minutes, I'm gonna jump on a Teams call, and we're gonna talk to these guys. And I'm gonna I did do some research. Fayetteville is a single party consent state for recording telephone calls, which I'm one of those. I'm a party in this. However, Core Spaces is based in Chicago. Illinois is a 2-party consent place. So when we get on this call, I'm gonna have to be like, is it cool if I record this? So gotta throw my hat in there. Yeah, Miles, it is a 1-party state, but they are based in Chicago, which is a 2, and so the 2-party state always wins, especially if things ever got legal, which, hopefully they don't. But you gotta, when you're dealing with billion-dollar companies, you gotta make sure that you're not gonna get sued or assassinated. So, I can't protect against the next one, but if I mysteriously die in a car crash in about 2 months, you know who to look for. So there we go. So I think this is going to be, I don't know, maybe we'll learn a lot about developers. Maybe we'll, maybe we'll see into the mind of an out-of-state developer and why they want to build here. Maybe we'll see their side of the story. Maybe we'll come out of this going, you know what? Maybe they're not so bad. Maybe they are really just here to help. And yeah, Josh Perry, I know they do have a built-in consent recorder. I've never used Teams before, and so I'm trying to kind of figure it out as I go along. And I don't know if I'm allowed to record the meeting because I'm not the host, but I don't wear a lanyard and live in a cubicle, so I don't really ever use Microsoft products anymore. I used to be proficient in Microsoft Office when I worked for the University of Arkansas, but since then I don't use it. Al Topich, hey man, fellow journalist. We already know their side of the story. And that is 3 money bag emojis, and I think you're correct. So, yeah, Tyler, that is true, but that other party is in a state that requires 2-party consent. So to cover my bases, it is safe to do the 2. If we were all in Arkansas, it'd be fine. So, according to, what the internet was telling me, it's probably best that I say whatever. But you're right. I might actually hang on. I'm getting a call right now. 1 second. This is Bo. Are we not doing a Teams meeting? Cool. I've got the meeting code plugged in. I'm just ready to join now. So. Cool. All right. Well, I just clicked join. It says I'm early, and I guess we'll.
Bo's actually on Teams, so just hop on Teams.
All right. There we go. Okay. Let's see here. me do my settings. I'm not familiar with Teams. My microphone is muted.
Hey, Bo, you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Andy's about to hop in. So I guess I set it up. I was the only one that didn't think it was Teams. So
Well, I'm not very familiar with Teams, so forgive me how I'm trying to. I'm more of a Zoom guy, but yeah.
well,
So,
it looks like we're all here. Andy, can you hear us?
well, is there like a record option? I'd love to record this and kind of be able to reference it and look back at it and all that kind of stuff. I'm trying to find that button.
Andy, you should have told me you're going casual. I put a suit on just for you. This is how I dress, man.
Just everybody, yeah, just casual Fridays. Okay. All right. All right. Well, I think I've got Teams loaded up. Y'all can hear me. I'm up in my studio, so I sound really nice. Hopefully. Do I sound nice?
You sound nice.
Okay, great.
You got a great voice.
Thank you. 10 years of radio will do that.
Yeah.
I don't have a cool like sound paneled wall like you do though, so I'm kind of jealous.
That's all right. Well, I wanted to, I don't know, Will, did you have a specific structure for this conversation in mind? No, Andy, I figured you'd introduce yourself and then tell Bo a little bit about the project. And then I think after that, we just want to hear some feedback from Bo and see if there's anything we can incorporate. Yeah, I gotta admit, Bo, I've been dreading this all day. Not for you. I'd hate me.
Yeah.
But I want to tell you some stuff about the project and who I am. So my name's Andy Savoy. I work with a company called Core Spaces. You've probably Googled us.
Oh, yeah. And I saw that you were a University of Arkansas graduate too, so saw that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to architecture school there. Graduated in 2010.
Go Hogs.
Yeah. Yeah. Woo pig. So I jumped on it. Actually, I love Fayetteville. I think it's a very unique college town compared to everywhere else I go. There's just nowhere like it, and it's got a lot more going on than just a college. So
Yeah, it's a strange market. I mean, it's not just Northwest Arkansas, man. I mean, or Fayetteville. It's Northwest Arkansas as a whole. You know, you've got Walmart, you've got JB Hunt, you've got Tyson, and then you've got the University of Arkansas. You know, and we're all like in this 3,000 square mile weird bubble.
Yeah. So you got 500,000 people living on that 20 or 30 mile stretch of road there, and that is like unique. Like most college towns are just that. It's just like 20, 50,000 people living in the middle of nowhere. Fayetteville's not like that. And so
And our downtown is also unique in the sense that, you know, and this is something a lot of people don't really think about is you know, our downtown is basically our biggest economic driver. If you look at the GIS maps and see where all the tax revenue comes, and it's right next to the university as well. So it's an entertainment district. It's the college like neighborhood. It's the downtown economic driver. It's like all these three different things because a lot of urban areas, your downtown is where people go work and then they get off work and they go home. And maybe the entertainment district like Westport and Kansas City is a little different part of town. Power and Light District, a little different part of town. And then the campus is a whole different part of town. But Fayetteville, it's all three. And that's also a very unique topography.
and another thing that's unique is people tend to stay. A lot of people who graduate stay.
Yeah. Why didn't you? Yeah.
Well, I crawled out of architecture school. I worked for Walmart.
Gotcha.
You know, but I have to admit, I've thought about moving back, especially over the last year when I've been going back and forth. I mean, it's an absolutely beautiful place.
Yeah.
So, anyways, Core Spaces is a student housing developer, has not done anything at the University of Arkansas before.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, very interested in the market, but we're like a subtext, like a Trinitas, we would be kind of a similar type
Well, you shouldn't have started off by likening yourself to Trinitas, because we've already had a lot of fun, colorful dealings with Trinitas. You should have been like, Trinitas, we're kind of like them, but we're way cooler. Would have been a better sales pitch.
I think that personally, but I just want to speak to you like straight up.
Okay.
The type of business that I'm in, the type of like equity partners I have is similar, and they're going to want to see some student housing there.
Absolutely, because it makes money, and this is a money business. I mean, I looked at the company in the past 10 years, going from a couple $1 million annual revenue to 800 some odd $1 million annual. That's either impressive or extremely fishy. Either one, I have to tip my hat. But like the growth that company has is just unbelievable. So bravo.
So I just want to, I guess, start by saying that I want to hear you out, and I want to make this the best project I can make it. But at the end of the day, it is going to have to check a few boxes, and it's going to need to be a student housing project, and that's what I'm going to have to try to go get approved.
Right.
And
Well,
if you stand up and say I hate that guy, it's going to be a bad project.
I don't hate you. You're a hog, man. But what I do hate is people that don't listen to reason and that are purely here to come tap a resource out of our city, and then kind of get out. Like, that's not something, as a resident who was a former Razorback that, went to school here, fell in love here, went and worked for one of the biggest companies on the planet, Discovery Networks, decided I wanted to not do that anymore and come back and invest and open a business in downtown Fayetteville, which I love and call home. To me, when I see companies coming in and wanting to just like go, hey, let's strike where the iron's hot, because this is a really, really great market to make a lot of money really quick. And then when it's done, we're not even based here. Becky, we don't even go here. We pull out. We've got our money. We're fine. That's the kind of stuff I don't like to see. If this were a company or a development, like some of my other developer friends that are local, that are like, how can we make Fayetteville better for the next 10, 20, 30 years? Not how can I make our bank accounts bigger for the next 5? I'm more likely to side to the people that are in the community building game and not the short-term ROI, SROs, purpose-built, housing game. And that's kind of where my initial standing is.
I will tell you that I have some clients that come to town who just say, we got a product and we want to put it here, and if they don't like what we're giving them, we're out. They can either take it or leave it. We're not making any adjustments. We got no flexibility. Core spaces more so than probably any other developer I've had in downtown Fayetteville. Andy has pretty much taken every single piece of advice that I've given him about how Fayetteville operates and what they expect, and what's important in this community. He's pretty much taken every single bit of that and ran with it. I don't think we'd even be on the phone with you if that were the case.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, so full transparency, like, you have to understand how crazy and suspicious it was to get a call from a legal team after speaking at city council. Like, here's a almost $1 billion company wanting to talk to you. That's not common. What's Will? But is that not legal? But I'm just saying, you have to understand the optics, like, of well, I mean, too late. You get a phone call from a lawyer going, I represent Core Architects, and I'm like furiously Googling these things, and I'm going, well, that's not something you get every day. So we out here trying to figure it out together is, I guess, what I'm saying. Yeah.
And I also want to, like, it's a complicated situation because I want to make sure that I message it right to you guys in terms of the time of, like, if everything goes right, we're talking about like 10 months from now, like almost a year from now, that we would need to vacate the property. So, like, a very long time from now. And so I don't want people to get freaked out.
Did you say 10? Did you say 10
What's
months?
going on?
You said 10 months. Okay. That's not really a long time. I mean, that's less than a year. Yeah. So I guess speaking of long term, speaking of 10 months, speaking of all these things, I don't know how much research you guys have been doing in the city of Fayetteville just as a how housing is being developed currently. I don't know if you checked out the Skyline report that was released last Tuesday. Are you guys familiar with that one? Well, you should. As a developer, it's a really great thing. The Walton College of Business, the Walton Foundation, the all this big money people, ArkansasTalkBusiness.net. The Skyline report was released, and it's a study on housing and housing needs. One of the things that was really fascinating is, despite the housing needs growing in Northwest Arkansas, student housing was on a vacancy decline by almost an additional 3% over last year. And if you go and you look at these things that are coming down the pipe, and I'm not singling you guys out specifically, but as a project that, as far as I know, still hasn't written the check for this property and hasn't gotten financing for this development, kind of as a, hey man, I'm looking out for you too. There are over, I want to say, 6,200 beds being planned that are already pushed through further in development than yours is. And the University of Arkansas has over 6,000 beds on it, and there's an existing 5,800 thumbs-up university-approved beds that are already online, coupled with a freshman entrance of only 7,500 students, coming to the university each year. And I'm thinking, okay, the iron's hot right now, but are you looking left and right and seeing all of these other developments that are trying to clamor in here like Beanie Babies just went on sale? And, have you looked at, is this going to be the best move in 3 years down the road? Or are you guys trying to beat all these other guys to it and hope that you guys get in first? I guess is my question.
Well, look, we're certainly not first. We're not second, third, or fourth either. So we're coming in later in the game. We think that our product we're going to be able to compete more. And if we're wrong, we'll just have to lower rent until we do compete. That's how it works, right? So I think that the additional supply is just going to help pricing. The reason why rents are so sky high is because there's, not enough units to meet the demand.
Well, I mean, that's assuming that housing is an elastic good, and I think if any of us have studied economics for more than a quick Google search, we know that inelastic goods and elastic goods are two different things. And it's really easy to paint a picture of an elastic good in housing when you say, oh, well, more supply will decrease demand, therefore ergo making prices lower. That doesn't happen to inelastic goods like housing, because we all need housing, right? And you're seeing that in the trends. If you look at the data trends, that right now in a market like Fayetteville, rents are high. Building more luxury, it doesn't lower the cost of luxury housing. It kind of has increased the cost of the non-luxury housing to catch up with the luxury housing, because that's how the supply is working. And so when I hear things like, oh, well, we'll just build more of these student condos to increase the supply, which will then decrease the demand, which should make your housing cheaper, I argue against that, because a Rolex is still a Rolex. You make 100 Rolexes, it doesn't bring the price of them down. And you guys got bills to pay. You build a $60 million building, you're going to be needing to charge $1,000+ a room to make that thing pay for itself. That's the money game right there. I know you're not a charity, and I would never ask you to be one. But then also, if you think about population and housing fallout, if we do hit the proposed 2030, it's either 33 or 39 enrollment cliff, because none of us are making babies anymore. You'll see that if you build these student-centric, purpose-built rental units that often contain many 4-bedroom, split-bathroom floor plans, yes, you have a couple 1 and 2 bedroom units. Absolutely, you always have them. But when the bulk of your money making is in these 4-bedroom split floor plans, that is not adaptable to any other use other than student housing. And so when you make adaptable housing, like if you really want to make me happy, adaptable housing, I think is smart, because otherwise you're just going to end up with this 8-story building that has 700 beds that half of them are not usable by anybody other than students. And if students goes away, who's going to fill them up?
Let me tell
I would love that. I would love that.
ideas, and it's not an unreasonable request. So
Because adaptability is one of the things a lot of these developers don't look at, right? And you look at us, we're three very straight looking white dudes that are here talking about like people's problems. You think, okay, would any of us want to live in this building? And I see a pretty nice wide open living room in Will, and you've got a padded whatever's going on there. I don't think any of us would be like, you know what sounds super cool? Let's live downtown with 3 random roommates that we don't get to pick and share 2 bathrooms. But then that's the adaptability side. You're like, if we get to a point where we are oversaturated with student living and we need more actual housing options, because again, we're not taking into consideration the fact that students don't have to live there; they get to choose there. And let's say, after freshman year, those 7,000 incoming freshmen don't want to live in a 4-bedroom split floor plan anymore. They want to go get a house by Gully Park or an apartment like I did by myself. And say, oh man, I want to be a grown up. I want to stop living like a freshman. I want to go live in town. And just like you said, if students stay, these community members are going to need housing. They don't want to be 30-year-olds living at the hub, and unless we design these things that are a little bit more adaptable and forward thinking.
We have a lot of different floor plans that we pride ourselves on, like offering different price points, so that we actually have, we're not building condos for everyone, right? So our price for the swing in our prices is actually massive compared to our competitors, because we kind of found that as a competitive advantage. And to take it even one step further is like, are there units like townhome style units or other units that could be occupied by non-students?
Well, I mean, that would be great, but I know you're not going to do it on a 1.8 acre plot on a, that I know that's not going to happen. I've looked at some of your developments. Some of them actually look really great. They do. But the one that I know that just if I were to look at an Excel spreadsheet of your budgets, I know that's not going on that piece of property. Well, let's dig into it.
Yeah. All right. So I've done this all across the country in places that hate developers. Clemson is a recent example.
Oh yeah, saw all those lawsuits.
In my brain, yeah, I'm still reeling from that. What we had to do to get things done there is we had to actually offer units that were like townhome style units, and we had like 20 of them that had, like master closets and like bathrooms that were like half bathroom on the living level, like true townhome style units.
Like a place somebody'd want to live.
Like a place that a family would live.
Right.
We had to offer them and basically promise to only rent them by the unit and not by the bed.
Which goes against what your website says. That you primarily rent by the person and not by the unit. But kudos. Like, I appreciate that. I appreciate renting by the unit.
Every project's different, and certain projects, like, it's really important to the community. That was a big project. That was a big transformational project. We had to get creative in a lot of different ways. We had to open up half our parking for half the year. We basically expanded a public park. We did all kinds of stuff, all kinds of stretching, like the best project we could. And we are open to ideas like that, because I actually think that will drive value and it makes the project better.
And when you say open to ideas, and Andrew, I know that you haven't been in Fayetteville for a really long. When's the last time you were in Fayetteville?
Yeah, there last Monday.
What'd you do? What'd you do while you were in town?
I met our neighbor to the south, Mr. Seth Mims from Specialized.
Oh, I know Seth. Yeah.
Talked about the project. I went to Penguin Ed's and got some barbecue. I went to Maxine's after the show, after the PC kind of hearing. I did just kind of hung around. Why?
I'm just curious to see if you really got to look at how much Fayetteville has changed since you went to school here and got your architecture degree, because it has changed an incredible amount. But the reason why I ask is, that particular downtown lot is getting incredibly congested. You probably saw the construction happening right across the street from this piece of property. You probably saw the planned development that's going a couple blocks away from that property. You probably saw that crazy retention pond that goes down to the creek that's there. And this piece of property is just jutted into a square mile that if you talk to any of our fire chiefs, our fire marshal Ashley, he's a really nice guy. They're like, why? They're asking why. And that's a huge building to put on a space. And I know you can't put townhomes there. I know that you said it's on the table, and I'm giving you some background because so many of these properties and these developments that I just mentioned had a very pretty picture when they threw out the conceptual drawings, because a lot of people forget the conceptual drawings are exactly that. They're conceptual, right? And for example, I'll reference the Aronson development. You're welcome to Google that one. And it had a whole lot of people really upset because they were taking our historic 112 drive-in away. And this was a place that was beloved by many residents, and the family decided they wanted to sell it. That's up to them. That's fine. But this development said, hey, we know that you're really upset about this. We're going to, you know what? We're building an Alamo Draft House down here at the end. Isn't that great? Don't you love Alamo Draft House? Everybody loves Alamo Draft House. And everybody's like, yeah, we do love Alamo Draft House. That sounds like an amazing concession. And they even did a screening because I used to work in the film industry, and I connected some dots, and I got the CEO of Alamo Draft House down here. Actually, he came up here in my studio. I have a bear suit that he wore, and we went and had drinks. It was a great time. But when the conceptual drawings made everybody happy and it went down to actually groundbreaking, they go, man, that's a really expensive line item. You know what we're going to cut out? That thing, and we're only going to build housing. And that left a whole lot of people really upset and taken advantage of, because it's a song and dance, and it's a tactic that says this is on the table, but everything on the table is also has the ability to be taken off the table, and we don't have any way to shape that. It's just a kind of your word that we hope that you're going to keep it on the table. You know what I mean? So when I hear like, yeah, these are things that we have done in other places, it doesn't give a whole lot of people, particularly people like me, the sort of incentive to believe that that's going to be the finished product. Does that make sense?
So it makes sense, and I understand it. As far as I know, there is a legal way to hold us to our word. Isn't that right, Will? I thought there was, what is that called, a bill of assurance?
So let me hop in for a little bit. Now, I can't remember. I believe the Aronson was done on a PUD, and I believe they have to go back and revise that PUD. So basically what I'm getting at is that if we were to say, hey, you know what, we recognize the need for non-student housing in this location, and we're going to provide X number of units that are rented by the unit unfurnished for non-students, that's something that we can put in a bill of assurance. And if we give that bill of assurance to the city council, and if you follow city council, you should be familiar with these.
Oh, I am.
We can't go back on our word. We give it to them in a bill of assurance, and then we go, oh, you know what? We changed our mind. We don't really want to build those, however many units that are not for students. The city's going to go, well, that sucks. You promised you were going to do it, and you can't build this thing unless you live up to your word. So, I mean, that's the sort of thing that we're looking to do. We're not.
Yeah.
I mean, you've made it abundantly clear to me and in this call that you're not interested in empty promises, and you've seen promises broken before. So we are interested in offering to the city are things that are enforceable that we can't go back on. Now, like Andy said, there's at the end of the day, the project has to pencil, so there's a breaking point. But at the same time, Core's willing to be flexible, and if there's things that we can put into a bill of assurance that will give the city more more comfort in knowing that we're going to do a good job with this thing, assumption that Core has nothing to offer to the city and they're not willing to offer anything, and that even if they did, we're always going to go back on it every single time because we're interested in offering things, A, that we can do, B, and that C, we can hold ourselves to. So that's, I mean, again, that's what we're looking.
If I could just say, I fully expect to give a bill of assurance for something. For what? I don't know yet. There's a lot of different opinions here. There are people who want me to save every tree. There are people who want an alley. There are people who want affordable housing. There are people who want me to do way more parking. And so I am in the process of getting a feel for what's important to everyone. And I hear you on the housing type diversity. Given Fayetteville's diversity of residents, I hear you on that, and that is something I could get behind. And I just don't know where everybody else stands, to be honest with you. But I fully anticipate to be giving a bill of assurance for something at the end of this process.
Well, and I'll tell you a couple of the things that I've noticed that tend to, and you can put these in your notes, that we've seen developers promise that they go back on. If you've got a bill of assurance for some of these things, it might actually go a really long way. And one of them is first floor retail, commercial. You know, we found that a lot of the programs that tend to hit city hall, they find the baseline minimums that get past the design standards, and you go, okay, well, as long as you have 500 square feet somewhere that's dedicated to retail and commercial, that checks the box as being mixed use, which checks the box of being in this zoning, which then doesn't really have to be anything other than the 500 square feet that maybe will turn into a leasing office, which happens at all of these places. And so these people that get promised coffee shops and engaging whatever, it turns out to just be a vacant spot that's either always for lease or the leasing office for the building. That one, that right, and the same one that's. Because and that's urban development 101, right? I mean, it's just building the 500 square foot and moving on. That's checking the boxes 101. But actual urban development 101 is the first floor needs to be commercial, because that's how you encourage walkable, small business growth, all that kind of stuff. We've seen that be used as a tool to get the mixed use multifamily check mark. And I mean, the development that's going on at the corner of West and Block Street is a great example. It originally got promised as like first floor retail. Now it's like, I want to say not even 700 square feet, and it's occupying a whole block of space. And but that and this is on our urban corridor. Like, Block Street, Andrew, Block Street. One of these things is going down there, and the whole first floor from the corner of Block all the way to Church is just going to be this lifeless concrete of decorative trees to get past, the tree mitigation rules and all that kind of stuff. Zero lot line build, all of that fun stuff. So that's a big one. Number two. And that's a big one. Yeah, and it's not great, and that's why people like me are so upset. And the other one that gets promised is, again, these, the floor plans. Floor plans are, we are in desperate need of downtown housing. Once you make me homeless, will be in desperate need of downtown housing. Build me a building that I can live in or happily move back in. Like, that would be rad. But to have somebody get excited about having your home of 10 years bulldozed, it's a hard pill to swallow. Especially when I'm already dealing with another development that's a block and a half away from my business that I have built and pay to the tune of 28.75% mixed beverage tax. Go wrap your brain around that. And I do it year after year because I love this town. But now my home that I've found that I can walk to work, I can live the utopian sort of idealistic model citizen life of walk to work, don't rely on my car, own a business downtown, live, work, play, is being systematically destroyed on multiple fronts by purpose built student SROs. And if just one of these tried to figure out a way to be actually community driven, it would be a miracle.
Right. I mean, I hear you. So, Bo, what I'm getting is from you. I'm hearing that you would like to see a mixture of units, and or do you think a mixture of units would be better for the community, and that you think a legitimate ground floor retail operation would be better? Is there anything else you can think of?
I mean, the fact that you just said what seemed very obvious is having to use the word legitimate, right? I mean, just having to use it just seems like, well, if no one had called us on it, we wouldn't have done a legitimate attack on it. And community centric, like how big of a pill is that to have to swallow when you're like, well, it seems to me like you want to build community. Who doesn't, man? Like, if you're wanting,
I see that as a benefit.
yeah, well, it should be. It should be a benefit for everybody. because,
I mean, well, I say legitimate because I have seen what other developers do, and I tell them if you say you're going to go do retail and then you put in some basically what is not a legitimate retail that is open to the public, and then you pull the rug out from under them after you've already gotten approved, it will be noticed, and you will have difficulties next time you want to come here and do something.
absolutely.
I say that because I warn my clients to not do exactly what you just said.
So I did have a question, because one of the things that I wanted to ask you before you guys get really bored of talking to me, because I'm so much fun at parties, guys. I can make a mean cocktail, though. Can you believe it? So I had a question about like security. One of the things that I noticed about your company that I'm going to give you a gold star for, actually, which is I didn't think I would do, is that you guys actually hang on to a lot of your properties. One of the things that we've seen as a trend in Fayetteville is these companies, particularly like Trinitas and other developments, building a building, building it for $40, $50 million, whatever, turning around, selling it for 75, and then somebody sells that for 82, and then someone sells that for 90, and it, like there's one, I think it's like the Yugo now. I can't even remember what name it is because it's only been open for 6 years and had 4 different owners, right? And it's just these things that change hands. But with that comes security problems. I don't know if you've been doing your homework on the city of Fayetteville, Andrew, but there have been multiple deaths. There's been people falling off of balconies from too much partying, alcohol-related injuries and incidents, and more Fayetteville Police Department calls than I mean, I did a FOI, which I know you guys love those. Y'all were in one of those lawsuits recently too, I found. But and it was an FOI with the city of Fayetteville that said, hey, let's make a heat map of where all these calls are coming from, and they're all in these student-focused housing developments. Many of them claim to have security on hand, but many of my friends are in the PD. I'm on the board seat for the Downtown Fayetteville Association, so I speak to Fayetteville PD all the freaking time. And one of the things they're very, very hard pressed with is who's in charge of these buildings, because they say they have on-site security, but then they're difficult to get into, difficult to navigate. Once you're in, how do you find these places? And then the UAPD is like, we'll handle it until there's like a dead kid. Then it's FPD. Like, how do you guys manage security in these? Because when you throw 700 18 to 20-year-olds that are going to be drinking there because they can't legally go drink outside, how are you managing that? Because a dorm has RAs, it has UAPD, it has all these things in tied, and we're seeing an uptick in on-campus crimes and police reports due to these types of structures. So how do y'all manage all that?
For a deal this size, we would have a full-time dedicated security guard on site. Most of these developments have like what is essentially an RA, a community ambassador, which is just one of the people that live there that's assigned to kind of monitor and call off-site security whenever there's a problem. We would have on-site security full-time there, and that's honestly a selling point. A lot of these people, their parents care about obviously keeping their kids safe, and so I think having a safe environment and making sure that our buildings are safe is not only to everybody's benefit, but it's a selling point for us. Like, we have to provide that. Otherwise, you're really losing out on huge segment of the market that really cares about that, because when I'm thinking about our target resident, we're selling to them. We're trying to give them, the unit they want. But in student housing, you're also kind of selling to the parents.
Yeah.
A lot of that
I don't know, what was that?
is, providing that security, that level of on-site security becomes very important.
Right on. Okay. I mean, that sounds like the answer I thought I was going to hear. But it's been a big problem in Fayetteville, and Fayetteville PD is very frustrated on how to handle it. So do we have any other like proposed floor plan? You said you were going to show me some of these proposed things. So far, I haven't heard any of those. So far, it's just been me talking, which I'm sure you guys love, judging by your faces. But
Well, I wanted to hear you. I feel like there's a work session tomorrow. I don't think the public's going to get to comment. The public is invited.
yeah, I'll be there. I'll wave at you in the camera. Yeah.
So we're going to be presenting very, very high level plans. We went to ask to vacate this on paper.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to do it without seeing what we were going to do. Fair enough. So we have a kind of initial plan set that we were going to present, just to show what we were thinking as far as scale and general organization of where the parking would be, etc. But it is by no means complete, and we're really here to listen, or we will be there to listen, and that's kind of what I wanted to do with you as well, just to see, what are the issues that you see as extremely important. Let's see. Will, you think it's okay if I share this on screen?
Sure. I mean,
recording it, but we're going to be talking about it in public tomorrow anyway.
I mean, right. Bo, you can screenshot it now or screenshot it tomorrow. I guess it doesn't matter.
You got it.
You see this?
Yeah.
All right, so this is the site. What we're looking at here is, from bottom left to top right, there's about a 60-foot grade change. It's
I'm
one of the
very
most
well
steep sites.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so it's very complicated, and it was very complicated to try to plan out. And so this dotted line you see right through the middle of the site, that is the current location of that alley. And I'm going to take you through here. So I'm just going to start at the lowest level. This is not drawn yet, but basically the vehicular entrance to our parking deck would be there. We have motorcycle parking, we have bike parking, some mechanical space, and then we have basically liner units, so that the community isn't looking at just a parking deck, but there's some kind of activity on the street. Perhaps that could be retail, but it's one of those things where, like, it is a steep site and you want to make sure you do it right. So whether or not it's retail or some kind of perhaps some kind of townhome unit that would have like a front door and a stoop that would go right out to the street, something that would activate the street right along center. As we go up, there's a second level of those liner units, and in fact, the two sides of that parking deck are always kind of screened from public view. We go up, so this third floor is actually where our main entrance is, right at Hill and Center would be our amenity area. And that would align with the third floor of residential units. There's also another kind of amenity area that opens onto an internal courtyard that's kind of carved into the side of the hill. As we get up, we populate more units as we kind of climb up the hill, so we're not displacing a whole lot of earth. And then on the fifth floor is actually the first time we get a full floor plate. That happens 3 more times. Then we start to carve back.
Are those blue boxes, are those individual units, or are they individual rooms?
Those are individual units.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. And so, as we get up, this is the 6th floor. So basically, we bifurcated the site because there's so much grade change that we basically have seven stories on one side of the alley, 7 stories on the other. And so once you get up to that at a breaking point where you're at 7 on the right side of the alley, we actually start to step back. So we've got cool pool deck. This would look out towards the square and towards downtown. And so a pool deck on top of that parking structure. So that would be fun. And then your last floor is just one more floor of units. So that's what we planned so far. Something else that I'm not sure if it's in this. Well, this shows you the trees. There are some really nice trees right in front of that Putman House building.
Oh, there's
that
some
we are kind of
incredible
intentionally
trees
trying
on
to
that
save.
lot. Yeah. And speaking of the ecological impact of this, I know you said a lot of people want to save the trees. Really, really cool trees there. But the floodwater retention pond is something that I was curious about just from a development standpoint. Because I know that thing has multiple points of floodwater that collects there, but more importantly, it drains all the way underneath basically the next block and empties out into that creek over there. And what? Because this is a lot of earth you guys got to move. What does that plan look like? If you guys have thought about it, I mean, because that's an incredible feat because it's already a basin, geologically speaking. That there's every street going in there. You have University, you have Hill, you have Center, all of those kind of valley out right there at that 4-way stop. And also when it ice and snows, it's really fun to watch from my apartment. If I'll just go, you could just have popcorn and watch that. It's pretty amazing. But yeah, have y'all thought about what's going to happen with all of that retention pond and the purpose that it serves?
So our civil engineers think so that retention pond currently it's fed from. Can you see my cursor?
No. Yes, there it is.
Okay. So it basically comes in the site. It comes from across Center Street and comes in the site about where I just drew that blue square. Then it goes in kind of like a gully, kind of parallel to Center Street, and then it opens up into the duck pond before draining out across the street and then going underneath that guy's building.
Yep.
And across the train tracks. Our civil engineers seem to think that they can put that into a culvert and run it along the property line. So we're setting back farther than we typically would just to accommodate a culvert that would catch that drainage and that storm flow and actually move it over to the corner of Center and University and then connect into where it currently drains. Now, admittedly, that's a lot of engineering.
Yeah.
And we haven't figured out all of the, the details. But that is the current thought.
Gotcha. Okay. I mean, because it was an interesting, and just from whether or not I had any skin in this game or not, I was just like, that seems like a very interesting math problem that I'm curious how they're going to figure that one out. Because I do like to know how things work. So yeah. Another question, I know this is, we kind of touched on it earlier, but we were talking about, the non-student tenant situation. And I know that this is student built. It's student focused. You need it to be for it to like make financial sense. I get that. But for the community driven side of it, like I'd be curious to hear kind of like what your plans are or plans on other developments that you've done to transition to accommodate non-student tenants that maybe don't want to be match made with random roommates, and also a question, because I know it's common leasing practices for a lot of these student developments to have blanket wide move in and move out dates during, say, like Christmas break and summer vacation, and then they kind of reshuffle the deck. I was curious if that's kind of how this property was being planned on managed as well.
It is likely going to have leases that coincide with the academic calendar for the majority of the building. Now, if we were to include, like I was talking with Will, and let's see if my computer will unfreeze here in a second. Okay, here we go. Talking with Will, and if we could find a way, like let's say in a future design iteration, we say, look, we're going to wrap this. So look, our lobby is on the 3rd floor, which means that we got 2 floors underneath it that are kind of awkwardly placed and don't connect to the lobby. Like you would have to go up. So I was thinking, hey,
What if you made those 2-story townhomes all across or something like that? And then you let that just operate as its own thing. So if you were a non-student, you don't have to go through a student housing building. It is a completely other thing. That could be something that we could probably do. We could probably figure that out. Maybe it's retail. A lot of stuff we're trying to do here, but that could be one way of kind of letting that operate completely independently. You'd still have the rest of the building that would operate on an kind of an academic calendar, but this separate piece of it might operate as its own thing, its own little townhome development or, apartment development, however it's set up, that would serve another part of the Fayetteville market, the non-students.
Well, it's that's the kind of thing. If you want a community to get behind something like that, these are the initiatives that need to kind of move forward. And I know you met with the guys at Specialized, and take a look at some of their developments. They're doing some pretty cool,
intimidatingly cool.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, they've got some really cool stuff going on, and one of the things that you don't see a lot of is community pushback on some of their developments. And right. I think the takeaway is that the city's not anti-development. We really aren't. But unless you're seriously planning on including things and initiatives that are geared towards community members, don't be surprised when community members like me aren't happy with it. Because this is our neighborhood. This is where I've made my life. I don't think you're moving back to Fayetteville anytime soon. But I'm stuck here, man. This is where my business is headquartered. So, I do appreciate the candid, maybe even dismissive sort of like we could maybe. The fact that it's even on your radar is a thumbs up. So another gold star on that one. But again, it's one of those things like Will was saying, like, unless that's in a bill of assurance, the assurance is thin. Because you said it yourself, this is a very difficult piece of property. This engineering is going to be a feat of, one of these things we watch on Modern Marvels. And somebody, what's the guy that comes out with the dirty jobs? He's going to come out and goes, look at all this shit water. We got to move it from A to B. It's crazy. Look at these scientists. And, but that also means it's going to cost more money. And so, I definitely have to put on my business hat when I think about, all these things that sound great, but eventually the cooler they are, the more expensive they tend to be. And, that's where I do still have a little bit of fear, unless it is in some sort of bill of assurance, is, how expensive this thing gets, because I don't know if you guys heard about it, but parking minimums are probably about to change in the city of
We're
Fayetteville.
aware.
And I figured you were, but,
Painfully.
And that's going to increase cost. And, the more cost increases, the more that SRO occupancy becomes more attractive, because that's where the money's at. So, it stinks from where I'm sitting, because, you're sitting on a piece of property that has 50 long-term tenants. I see Miss Susan, who's like 100 billion. I think she was one of the Flintstones neighbors. Like, she lives downstairs and she walks, get her steps in every day. And then there's a retired vet, and there's a nurse that lives nearby me, and the owner's son of Wes's Barbecue right across the street, he lives in the building, and you look at these people day in and day out, and you're like, are they going to be able to live in this building when it's finished? How do I calm those people? How do these people walk away from this thinking it's a net positive for the city of Fayetteville, when we feel like it's just going to be chock full of, incoming freshmen from Dallas? And, kind of circle back to the theme of the conversation. And I think
the only thing I can say to that is I definitely have a lot of work cut out for me. Yeah. I understand that. You know what I mean? And you want this to be a net positive for the rest of the community, not just students. I'm sure the planning commissioners feel the same way. And I'm going to be put through the ringer on that. I fully expect to have to make this project as good as it could possibly be to get it done.
And, another question, and this is, of course, none of my business, but, from what I have sort of gathered from living at this space and talking to every employee from MCE that comes out and starts drilling in my parking lot, or, every arborist that comes in and measures a tree. And if you haven't caught it from now, I'm pretty chatty. and I will just walk
Yeah, I
up
saw
and
your Instagram posts.
and I'll walk up and I'll be like, "Hey, man, what's going on?" And it doesn't appear to me like you've signed all the big checks yet. And I guess I'm just curious why this piece of property is just so unbelievably juicy. Because it does seem like it's ripe with challenges. You're going to be put through the ringer, all of these kind of things. Like, why is it something that y'all are still like, yes, you've got, I think I looked online, several thousand projects, beds being put online in the next 3 or 4 years with your company. What's makes this one so special?
Well, look, you're right. The site has a lot of challenges. I think it's one of those sites that's like kind of a sleeper, awesome location. And when you visit the university, you can see Old Main straight from the corner, and there's a bike path going straight there. And it doesn't look like it on a map, but it's a great location, and I think we're kind of convinced.
I mean,
We've
it's
convinced
why I
ourselves
live
of
there.
that.
It's so cool.
Um, and I think I would just say, like, every Core Spaces project we try to make as cool as possible. We hit it with creativity and kind of a grind that other people are either too lazy or don't know how to, right? And so we've got, our sources of capital are kind of like their own captive fund. So we don't have other kind of investment companies to answer to, and we get to get excited about things and do cool projects, which not all developers can say. And so hear you on the challenges. Definitely not saying that that's untrue, but we're gonna make it special, and kind of overcoming those challenges and figuring out a creative way to do that is part of the fun.
Well, I'm glad someone's having fun. Yeah, man. I mean, I don't have there's other questions that I could ask. I mean, public transit wise, I mean, the parking thing, I know you guys are chewing on that one. That one's going to be a tough one for everybody. But yeah, man, the only things I can say are like, keep this thing community focused. These bill of assurances are fun. It'd be cool to see what you guys bring to the table for that. You've got to challenge convincing residents that this is great, because one of the things that our downtown desperately needs is places for young professionals, man. I'm one of them, and I know a lot of colleagues. I have a friend, and I'll just give you this, and it'll be kind of fascinating. I had a buddy of mine. He's a brilliant coder. He works in the tech industry, wanted to live in downtown Fayetteville for a long time. And kept looking, and he ended up buying a house in Rogers, but hating it because he wants more of that urban walkability. There's dining, there's entertainment, there's nightlife. Couldn't find anything in Fayetteville because there just wasn't much. It was either Airbnbs, student condos, or already taken. So he moved to Boston because he said it was easier to find an apartment that fit his needs in downtown Boston, and he's saving money. And we're losing young professionals that are building our downtown because, like I said at the very beginning of this conversation, Fayetteville downtown is very unique in the sense that it's not just for students. It's our economic driver, it's our entertainment district, and it's right next to the university. So when I'm out here flying my flag, it's because we are putting so many eggs into the student basket right now at the sacrifice of our locals and trying to attract new young professionals to be population retention, because we want those students to stay, and they're not going to stay in a place that they have to move out every Christmas and every summer and get 3 roommates, and so we're losing places that they can be in lieu of places like this. So I would love to see more places that can actually house people that want to live here for a long time.
Yep, I hear you. I'm gonna chew on that. So the townhome thing is my only idea. I think I can make the case. I don't know if I want to go down this road just yet, but I have done this before where I've designed every single unit to be converted to a 2-bedroom or less. If the world ends,
bro, you're talking my language.
If you're correct, and we could actually do that, just to say, hey, we're not just going to go out of business. We're just going to adapt if that happens. We don't think it's going to happen, but both thinks it's going to happen. And if it does, we have a plan for that.
They call me Bostradamus for a reason.
Yeah.
I do my research. I'm good at trends. I'm in the business of trends, and I think that adaptable reusability is something that we're going to have to see if we're going to actually solve the housing crisis. I think there's a lot of other issues that we could probably talk about over beer about housing theology. I mean, Will's got a philosophy degree. He's just over there just like thinking about math and philosophy. I know you got to be thinking about these things, dude. But yeah.
Bar open on Wednesdays?
Yes, it is.
Or no, you're not going to be down here, Andy.
Yeah, I'm not going to be down there.
Well, yeah, man, I don't want to take
next time we can come pay you a visit.
Yeah, absolutely. Bring that company card.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen after this work session. We may, depending on how it goes, want to have another one, but certainly be down there on the 28th, maybe before.
Right on. Well, you know where I live.
Yep.
Yeah, dark humor, gotta love it. If anything we can do is laugh, but I didn't want to take up too much more of your time. I know I've bothered you guys for an hour, and you probably have more places and more people to talk to than some guy that makes cocktails in Fayetteville. But I do appreciate the time.
Hey, we asked for it, man. You're not bugging us.
Right on.
I appreciate the conversation, honestly.
Yeah, likewise.
And I want you to feel like you can. I don't know. Do you have my email? Like, I want you to feel like you can talk to me if you need to.
Cool. Well, Andrew, I appreciate it, man. Will, appreciate making the connection, and I'm sure we'll be in touch. I'll see you probably on the Zoom tomorrow. I'll wave at the camera.
Yep, that works.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
All right. Thanks, Bo.
All right.
See ya.
Yep.
Well, how do we feel about that, everybody? That was sorry about the audio thing there. That was a thing outside of my control. It took me a while because I was trying to stay engaged, but then also do tech support on my deal, because I use a here, I'll just show you guys. Like, I have this thing right here. Ah, dang, the webcam's not working. My bad. I have this crazy USB like soundboard. It's like a multi-channel deal, but it was pulling from the USB track and not like the hardwire speaker track. So I had to fix it, and it sounded great in my ear, but I guess it wasn't pumping out the right channel. But we got it fixed at the end. Vince says, "Don't take this as a backhanded compliment, but you're very impressive." My Nana said I should have been a lawyer. Like, when I was a kid, she's like, "You should be a lawyer," and I'm like, "Lawyers are bad." And I knew back then I didn't want to do that. But yeah, let's see. Let's go back in the comments. Drew, fighting the good fight. Thanks, man. Tyler, thanks, dude. Sorted the audio out. Yeah, OBS is crazy, but especially with OBS and external devices, because I like knobs and this kind of stuff. Teresa, hey, who works on campus? Do you still work on campus? Missed most of it, but it sounds like we're about to get high density student housing ruining. So one of the things that I didn't talk with him, that I'm going to have one of my friends, Britton Bostick, who's the long range planner for the city of Fayetteville. There are over 5,800 currently, actually, here, let me just pull up some data for you, and we will take a look at this really quick. Here is a spreadsheet of student-oriented housing in the city of Fayetteville as we know it right now. This is student housing that is thumbs up by the University of Arkansas as of this year. They're like the retreat, gather, union. These are things that the university considers university housing that incoming freshmen can live at, which meets their rule as stated in this other thing that I have pulled up. Hang on, let me I've got so many things pulled up. Here we go. Beep. They have more than 6,200 bedrooms at the university right now, but each year you when you're a freshman, you have to, for the first 2 semesters, stay either within a 70-minute commute with your family or live in one of these things. So of all of these things that we have currently in Fayetteville, there are 5,862 2 bedrooms, split between 929 units. So if we just pull up our handy-dandy calculator and we do a little bit of math, and we can find out that the average, oh my God, you know, these are big bedroom units is what I'm getting at. Hang on, multiple windows. Let me go back to this one. And yada, yada, yada. Where did that go? Okay, I'm losing my screen here. So yeah, we already have this many. So we've got, pull this over here. Why does it do that? I don't like how it does that. Let me come back over here. Pull up my windows. All right, boom. So if we've got 6,200 plus 5862, that's 12,062 student-centric beds in the city of Fayetteville. We've got another, I want to say there's another, I think there was 4,700 that are currently slated to be online, plus another, I think, 3,500 that are being proposed. That's over 20,000 beds that are currently sitting at the city of Fayetteville for students. And like, that's crazy. That's too much student housing. We are hitting a surplus of student housing at this trajectory, right? Because this is also playing into the fact that students don't have to live there if they don't want to. One of the things that pisses me off so much that when I talk to developers and planners is they think, oh, well, if we just build more student housing, it will free up these cool little houses at Gully Park and things in West Fayetteville and things off Ruppel and things in my backyard, and they get all NIMBY about it. But here's the thing. Students don't like living there either. You know, they go because they have to in that first year, and then they're going to go get with their buddies and rent a house that's nearby, or their parents are going to buy a house and rent it out to them. So you're still going to get student neighbors because students don't want to live in dorms for 4 fucking years. And, you know, and if we're only building these things that don't have adaptive reuse, then we're going to be stuck with a surplus of houses that no one can live in, and the students don't want to. So to me, my whole point to this guy was, why are we continuing to build these things that only one demographic of people can use, and you're giving them a wider choice of housing options when the people that actually need the housing and want to live here are getting less options? Like, that doesn't solve a housing crisis problem in my opinion. But you know, yeah, Bashanye, what them tabs do, girl. I got so many tabs open right now. Vince over on Twitch says, haha, I also thought it was funny when Bo basically showed those that he knows what time they go to the bathroom. Like, you know, I like to be informed, you know, I don't like to talk out of my ass, even though I do it a lot. Teresa says she's a Fayetteville native, born and raised. These will choke us out. And they're currently choking us out. And that was the thing that I tried to illustrate to these guys is like, look, I'm a model citizen. I'm quite literally the definition of kind of came here as a kid, fell in love with the area, went to school here, saw the world for a little bit, realized I love this place, was community active, did a lot of stuff in the arts and entertainment, came back here, opened my own brick and mortar business, still community involved, on boards, on things, living down here, and now I'm so fucking pissed off that I want to move, you know? And I can't believe it. Tyler says, do we know what the student housing deficit is? And Dee Dee says, I don't think there is one. And I back that up by data from Britain. You can contact Britain Bostic with Long Range Planning. She is an amazing human, very data-oriented, big nerd. Gotta love that. And her hypothesis is also we do not have a student housing deficit. We have a, as Britain put it, and I don't want to quote her, but I'm going to do air quotes, and say she says the primary deficit that we have, so her issue and my issue is no one defines what our housing crisis is. There's just this big sort of boogeyman idea of like, we're in a housing crisis. It's a crisis, you know, it's hard out here, but no one's identifying the pain points of what makes this crisis a crisis. And Britain has gone through the data and has said that the pain point, the people that are actually experiencing housing crisis, are single families or single people that make under $55,000 a year less in salary, that are looking for a 1 to 2 bedroom unit or a home. That's where our housing crisis is. we don't have a student housing deficit. We have an affordable live, work, play, community resident deficit. And what makes me so mad about developments like this one is there are 50 people that aren't students that are long-term Fayetteville residents that are living in this building. 2 of them are business owners in Fayetteville, local business owners. And we're about to get our homes bulldozed to build even more of these things that we don't really need. And again, under the flag-waving banner of, well, it'll alleviate the pressure and free up supply. Anybody that tells you that building more luxury townhomes is going to free up supply so that other people can move, it needs to read a book. Like, read any sort of, read, you can Google it twice. You don't even have to go far and Google it. Even the stupid, always incorrect AI summary will tell you that no, just Google housing inelasticity, and you'll get a lot of economic theory about, goods and services as they pertain to supply and demand. And it's a really exciting read, let me tell you. But it is such bullshit, as Jennifer says. Let's see. Teresa says, I'm leaning college town is 38% occupied and fraught with mold issues. Oh my God. Because they're built cheaply, man. And, like that guy said, this is a challenging plot and they're going to have to cut corners all the time. Jordan Light says, isn't there a decline in student enrollment? So why are they building housing for students? I own a house on Hill and I can't leave the house between 3 and 4 p.m. It's already congested and no one can afford to leave or stay. Maybe I'm wrong. You're right. You're absolutely right. They're building housing for students because it's extremely lucrative right now. It is. If you go back and you just look at the history of Core Spaces, who we just talked to, you can see the rapid trajectory of the growth of their business once they started hitting the concept of single room occupancy, student purpose-built driven housing solutions, right? They can rent rooms by the bed and charge over $1,000 to $1,500 for a single room. And they're kicking these people in and out. And so they're also gaining money off of application fees, which is big business. There's the data to prove it. And they'll turn around and they'll sell it to someone else, which, becomes not their problem. That's why I was fascinated that they hang on to their properties. But they haven't been hanging on to them long because the whole company itself is only about 15 years old and they've only been a student residents for about 10. So they're not holding on to these properties very long. This is just a cash cow for them right now. Tyler says, now that I'm curious the profit difference between managing apartment condos and student housing, any business supply and demand. Well, not all business is supply and demand. And it goes back to that elastic and inelastic goods conversation that I was talking about. Like, an elastic good is a commodity that people can choose, right? Let's just say like chocolate, just Snickers bars and Baby Ruths, right? They're still peanuts, nougats, caramel, a little bit of salt and chewy, gooey nougat, and they're delicious. But if let's say Snicker bars were a lot cheaper than Baby Ruths, and people might lean towards Snickers bars, and that's the elasticity of goods. We're like, but if both of them got expensive, maybe people would go like, you know what? I don't need Snickers. I'm just going to say no. Housing is kind of an inelastic good. It's like, we all still need housing, right? And so until we hit a point where we have more housing than we have human beings, which if you just look at the data is kind of a mathematical impossibility, then it won't ever become an elastic good because there won't be more houses than we can choose to just decide we don't want anymore. That's a huge thing, but when you can take an acreage of land and you can rent it by the bedroom to the tune of 671 beds at $1,200 a room versus those same 691 beds divided up into single units, which might be 1 and 2 bedroom, and say that 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom unit is going to be $1,800, but then you still got to build more bathrooms, more kitchens, more sinks, which adds to the cost of development, which that's where the secret in the sauce is they don't want to have to pay for parking because concrete, that load is expensive, rebar is expensive, building those things is expensive, and then kitchens and bathroom and plumbing is expensive. Bedrooms are cheap. So the more bedrooms that they can build and charge for them, the more revenue that they gain overall versus. So that's the difference between by bedroom and by unit. I hope that made sense in my weird spider brain. But Tyler, I hope that fits in there. I'm firing on a lot of cylinders right now, and I don't have a whiteboard. Okay, thanks, Bishanye. But you and me are both kind of probably on the spectrum, so maybe we are only making sense to each other. I don't know, but I hope it made sense to those of you at home. Let's see. That's how we can communicate. Drew says, that's the problem when the town is a one-trick pony farm for the Dallas student. Yes, that's absolutely true. Teresa Waddell on Facebook says, enrollment decline is already occurring for many. I don't think U of A has felt these impacts quite yet, by some neighboring institutions might be. Teresa, it's a really good point. One of the reasons that in my independent research that I've noticed that the university has not really truly felt the enrollment decline is because we're kind of, like most things in Northwest Arkansas, existing in a weird little bubble thanks to things like Tyson and Walmart. But the University of Arkansas is an SEC school that has a pretty decent and heavily funded sports program. And SEC schools tend to have higher enrollment because it's like sexy to come to these party schools, right? And then also we've got Texas right next to us feeding all of these students that can't afford or get accepted into UT because they can't afford to live in Austin either. So it kind of protects us from this what we see as a United States-wide narrative of there's been a 14% enrollment drop since 2014 until now, and they're predicting that's going to hit another 18% drop by 2033 when you pair it to the birth rate decline, as mentioned in the past CDC studies of the past 4 years. Yeah, but it's happening. It's going to happen. Dee Dee says folks can email Planning Commission and City Council. Yes, you can. It's really easy to do. You can email them. It's just if you want me to email you a list of those things, send me a DM with your email address. They're all online, but I can send them to you in a faster format if that makes emailing easier for you. Let's see, Jordan, thank you so much for doing this. You make sense. I try to decode all of this stuff because it's tough. Yeah, research purpose-built student housing investment. Yeah. When is the next meeting? Good question. So there is a meeting that's not open to public comment tomorrow. You can watch it online. That's going to be these guys that we just saw telling their plans to Planning Commission because they really want this alley right-of-way vacation request, which I strongly suggest we all fight against. A town hall. So town hall is different than Planning Commission, but both are open to the public. So when you go to, let's just do it together, shall we? Let me go over here and and we'll just go over to Fayetteville, Arkansas.gov. So that's fayetteville.ar.gov. Right here on the main screen, there is all these kind of fun, cool things, agendas and minutes, public meetings, agendas, minutes, and video. You can go to the public meetings calendar. You can watch live from home if you don't actually want to go there with this link right here. But you can click the public meetings calendar, and it's like, look at all these meetings. And generally, Planning Commission are on Mondays. So you can say, all right, this is April. The next one will be April 7th. Doesn't look like there's going to be any meetings there. You can look at the number 10. There's a city council is always on Tuesdays, so we got the city council agenda session there. There's a big one that's coming up on April 15th, which is this big city council meeting right there at 5:30. That's going to be a doozy. But the next Planning Commission meeting is going to be right here on April 14th. If you want more details on that, you can click more details. And probably next week, it will populate with an agenda here. So you can download a PDF, and I'll show you what that looks like let's see if there's a city planning. We'll go to the city council agenda session. Here's the agenda session that's scheduled for this week. That'll be for the next following week where they will develop that agenda. We'll go back. Let's go back to March, and I'll show you what one of those agendas actually looks like. So we'll go to this planning. This is the one that I spoke at. So Planning Commission meeting. You can go more details. There's the agenda for that Planning Commission meeting. Pulls it up. and it's like, here are the minutes, here are the different proposals, and you're like, what is all this stuff? I don't understand. Variance. Oh God, geez, large scale developments. Oh man, another large scale development. This is the one that really sucks. It's on Dixon and West, but this one was such a pain in the ass that everybody just skipped and signed out after that until you go down to like, oh, a vacation, 7 South University. What is this all about? Let me click this, and it'll pull up that item, and it's like, okay, I move forward with the yada yada yada. Yeah, this is all the parts that are listed in that request that those guys proposed. It's a lot. I'm telling you, it's a lot. It's not easy, and I'm out here doing it. So it's extremely complicated to kind of make this make sense. But Dee Dee in the chat, like if you don't know Dee Dee Peters, she's an absolute beast, and we have been talking a lot, sharing brains, because we think about this very similarly, and we are more than happy to help decode some of this if you guys are just willing to show up and speak, because that's the thing that we need more of, is like, there's going to be people like me, people like Dee Dee, and people like Britton that are sitting here doing the homework, but then we're only 3 voices when it comes down to it, and we need all of you guys to kind of show up when it matters, and that's why I'm doing streams like these. It's like, this is where the conversations start, but then in the planning sessions and those agenda meetings, that's where things happen and the decisions get made, and then you as a member of the public at large can speak. If you don't feel comfortable speaking, you can email, and it really, really, really does make a difference. I mean, if anything that the past hour and 30 minutes has taught you is, I'm just a dude wearing a Protect Fayetteville shirt that spoke for 3 minutes about something that actually made sense. I wasn't calling anybody a jerk. I wasn't saying keep Fayetteville funky. I actually had a couple of data points, and I brought them to the commission, and then I got a phone call from a dude in Chicago. Like, if they weren't nervous about my ability to sway public opinion, that phone call would have never happened, right? And, what that means is we can make a difference. You can make a difference. Everybody together can make a huge difference. Sitting back and watching this Facebook stream and then going, yeah, Bo was right, he's got it. No, I don't got it. I'm trying to get us all together so that we got it. And you need, it takes an army, not just a general. But anyway, let me get caught up in the comments here. So, when is that meeting, town hall coming? U of A has done a housing study. Where is it? Yeah, good question. And who was it paid for? Housing study results might have to be requested. Google search not pulling anything up. Let's see. Jordan says we can rally the troops. I hope so, man. Teresa says there's also too much development of green space on the edges of Fayetteville. Traffic is reaching unbearable levels. Yes, agreed. Dee Dee says I've seen part of it. I've asked City Council for contact for Town and Gown, when the next meeting is, and what their agenda is. Man, I haven't heard a whole lot of Town and Gown in a long time. And that's another oddball committee that, does good work, but you're like, they're out there doing what? Hopefully that housing study will be on the agenda, and hopefully it will be unbiased, because here's the thing with data. Like, I love it, and I also realize that it can be misconstrued for the forces of evil. Like, you can make numbers say what you want them to say. It's a pretty common study that 33% of statistics are made up on the spot, and that's a joke that I love saying all the time because most people never get it. And you can use numbers to paint a really, really pretty picture. But I was in an economic advisory committee meeting back in COVID, and I had a really big issue with the number of people that were like, well, what's the problem? Because sales tax revenue is going like this. Like, why are these local businesses saying that there's a problem if the arrow is going up? More tax revenue equals more better, right? Yes. Yeah, sure, if you're the person collecting that tax revenue. But if you're the local businesses that are suffering, then no. And my hypothesis was, guys, we're looking at these numbers, but we're only looking at them in a certain perspective. We're not looking at where these numbers come from and why they're coming. And I was like, why are we not drilling into the NAIS codes or NCIS code, whatever the NAICS codes, NACS codes, basically the codes that the government gives you that dial down what your industry is and who's paying that tax, right? And I said, why don't we drill down to that and find out where this money's coming from? Because I believe that since, most states are destination tax states now and everybody's spending online, Amazon has to pay sales tax to 72000 or 72701, 72703, all the 72764, all that shit. But local businesses are probably still suffering. And they were like, oh, that's going to be so hard to drill down that data. And I go, do it. And when they did it, after a couple of weeks, they found that despite sales tax being up because people were still spending money online, local sales tax collections were down to the tune of several $1 million. And they were like, oh my gosh, and it's like, okay, well, there was a hidden monstrous down arrow that was, kind of obfuscated through that tasty up arrow of overall sales collection. It's like how when you can say the average income in the state of Arkansas is X, Y, and Z, but not thinking about the fact that they're including the Waltons that live here, and all these billionaires, and averages are made by taking everything and dividing it by how many, right? But if you ever study statistics, shout out to my friend Todd Taylor, who taught me statistics in high school, of which I thought I'd never use any of that shit, but I was wrong. I admit it. And he was in my bar the other day, and shout outs to Todd Taylor, one of the best AP statistics teachers I've ever had in my life. Taught me the difference between, how bell curves work, how median, means, and T-scores work, and all of that stuff is really cool. And, study, kids, do your homework. Winners don't use drugs. And, when you look at the data and you interpret it in the right way, you can tell these big assholes to shut the fuck up. Like I guess that's the summary of that diatribe. Sometimes I feel like I'm the Micro Machines guy when I'm on those live streams. Is anybody still with me? Oh man, where are my Twitch people at? Vince, you still with me? All right. Well, this has been enlightening. I hope you guys got something out of this. Tune in. Be aware. If Planning Commission's the 14th, City Hall's the 15th. Those are both really good meetings that are going to be important. There is a lot of stuff going on, and if there's some other stuff going on, I think it's SB 345 or 234, some alliterative number, that's going on at the state level. And state politics is something I'm still kind of learning. I got to tip my hat to guys like Greg Letting, who is out there doing the Lord's work. Gotta love that guy. But there's a bill out there that would effectively completely stop the municipality's ability to dictate parking restrictions on developments, which is targeted at what we're doing right now. And if the thing that goes through is City Council on April 15th goes through, it will arm our city with the tools to encourage smaller community-centric development like we're seeing from places like Specialized and other cooler community-driven projects, but also shield against huge developers like Core Project and these student-centric developments. And right now we don't have any of these tools because landowners generally get by right to build whatever they want as long as it fits within the Fayetteville UDC, our Universal Design Standard or Code, whatever acronyms. But it needs to pass, guys. So if we just pass this, it will really, really help the city be equipped to tell some of these projects kindly no, so that's a big one. And then on the 14th, that's I think when this vacation alley request goes back to Planning Commission. And if you guys want to jump in on Zoom and raise your hand and speak against it, or even better, show up into City Hall and speak against it, it would be great. Particularly that alley request, because you would be directly keeping me from becoming homeless. And that would be rad if I continued to have a place to live. And you heard him say it. And as soon as 10 months, he goes, a long time, 10 months. And I'm like, that's not even a year, dude. Like, you can't even really make a whole baby in that point. Like what the hell, man? That's not long at all for me to completely figure out how to change my home from the place I've been for the past, like, 9-ish years. So, yeah, April 14th and April 15th. Put on your calendar. Yeah, so sorry about the audio issues at the beginning. I've got them figured out now, if we ever have another one of those. Let's see. Oh, and there's I just got this message from Marilyn. She said, just wanted to remind me of the special screening of Forest Through the Trees this Thursday, 7 p.m. at Leroy Lounge. Hope I can make it. So, maybe catch me out there. Okay. All right. I don't think there's any other comments I need to address. Thanks for tuning in, Merle, Dee Dee, Teresa, Jordan, all those people that have been asking great questions. Appreciate y'all, and I'll see y'all later.